Hi everyone. Today let's talk about how the markets are breaking out to new highs, as well as consumer sentiment. And then the stock for today will be Meta. Let's take a look at the reason they're going higher here today, and we'll take a look at their charts later as well. If you like trading stocks and options and making money, definitely like and subscribe. I make videos like this every single day that the markets are open, as well as Sundays, so make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Welcome to the Portfolio Bulletin. Let's get started. So markets rocketed higher once again, breaking all records. We are at all-time highs across major markets. NASDAQ, SPY, and the Dow are all at record highs. The Russell continues to be the laggard, which is not great. Usually you want to see more participation, but so far everything continues to go higher. Let's take a look at what they cite as headwinds and tailwinds. They say the market continues to focus on the good and ignore the bad. Sentiment is definitely positive as we continue forward. We have seen positive developments in big tech. AI continues to drive markets higher, which also has been driving the semiconductor space. I continue to talk about semiconductors just about every day, it seems like, and they were rocketing higher once again. Definitely check out my other video if you want to see the TA on AMD and NVIDIA, but they went higher today, absolutely crushing it. And they mention that here as well, NVIDIA and AMD driving semiconductor higher as one of the best performing sectors. We also continue to see very strong jobs growth, as well as initial jobless claims continuing to stay low. Unemployment rate has continued to stay low as well. So job market doing well, even though economic factors have dimmed a little bit. And they mention here, as long as the Fed interest rate hikes don't break anything, the economy should be good. And they say they don't see anything breaking right now. There's no subprime debt crisis or mortgage crisis the way that there was during the 2008 crisis, which took markets much, much lower. And so far, we've been handling the hikes pretty well. And then they move down to the Magnificent Seven, or the 7 biggest names driving markets higher. They drove almost all of the gains last year, and they are doing so once again this year. We're also getting standouts from Taiwan Semiconductor, AMD, also not in the Magnificent Seven, driving markets higher. And then we did see the Michigan numbers come out as consumer sentiment was the highest that we've seen since July of 2021. We talked about that in the other video, extremely high consumer sentiment numbers. So overall, very strong across markets, nothing breaking. Seems like there's not a ton of risk out there. I would argue that there's probably some geopolitical risk, potentially conflict with Iran. We could also see Ukraine expand a little bit potentially. None of that is priced in. Those are definitely black swan style events, but they weren't mentioned in this article. Speaking of consumer sentiment, let's move on and take a look at those actual numbers. They read out at 78.8, an extremely high number for consumer sentiment. And they say it was up 21.4% from a year ago, so extremely high. People continuing to spend. They also mentioned that despite political affiliation, consumers still look quite strong, and sentiment has risen nearly 60% from the all-time low measured in June of 22. So markets continue to look strong while the consumer continues to maintain their jobs and continues to maintain their strong outlook. And on the back of that, we did see markets go higher today. And then finishing up for the articles today, let's look at Meta. Meta rocketed higher nearly 2% on the day, keeping up with markets. You like to see it. And then we'll take a look at the charts after this. So Meta closing at 383.45, setting a new record here following a 200% jump over the last year. They were shelling a ton of money into the metaverse. They were losing money hand over fist, and then they decided to pull back on that CapEx, and then they started making money again. And then once people realized that Meta could still make money and they had room to grow, then the investors poured into Meta. And with that strong growth, the stock went higher. Obviously, Meta is one of the Magnificent Seven, so it's not an unknown company. But for a company that's this well developed to rocket up 200% in such a short period of time is pretty crazy. And don't forget, their earnings do come out on 1 February. We are getting close to earnings season. We have some heavy hitters coming in next week. We'll cover that in the Sunday video, but it is interesting to see this going much, much higher. And some of the drivers of that are the tens of billions of dollars of stock that Meta is buying back. And let's not forget that Meta is a player in the AI space. They mentioned Meta buying 350,000 graphics cards from NVIDIA, which suggests they are still spending billions of dollars to support their AI ambitions, which is still the biggest market catalyst out there in my opinion. Just for a little bit of context, let's go ahead and look at the NASDAQ just for a moment. You can see over the past 3 days from the 3-day low, we've rallied about 4.5%, absolutely massive over that time period. This is what the daily chart is doing, massive legs up from low to high, momentum bullish. Everything looks very bullish here on the NASDAQ. I covered this more in detail on my other video, but definitely want to look at this just before we look at the meta charts. And moving over, you can see it is a very similar thesis on the hourly and the daily chart. From low to high, quite a bit stronger, about 7%, so definitely good. Taking out my 382.49 level. Probably need to add some levels here between 346 and 315. Let's go ahead and add one at that wick high. Let's go ahead and put it there, 361.84. And then let's zoom out here to the weekly chart. Absolutely colossal move. You can see we just barely took out these wick highs just by a few pennies here today. Going back to August of 21, that was your previous all-time high. Absolutely massive. And if you really zoom out, you can see just how big this 200% move was. We got all the way down to $89 at one point, which is crazy. And since then, it's actually been a 324% runner. So massive move on Meta. Crazy that it got that cheap at one point. But here again today and this week, big moves, 2.39%. And like I said, currently in price discovery, your support is 382.49. You'd love to see it hold that number. It's about $2 above it right now. And it's even up after hours. Let's look at it on that 15-minute chart. You can see it did have a big bullish candle there, about 0.3% on the last candle of the day, rallied up to its daily high, 384.38. Momentum, slightly bearish on the shorter time frames, but that doesn't really mean anything. Structure is still intact. RSI still bullish. Everything looks clean here on Meta. You do have a pretty tight stop here for this price discovery. Moving over to the options chain, you can see there's pretty good volatility in here. You can sell some puts down at 382.50 for about $4.50, which is pretty good. That's about a 1% return on your money. Looking to buy the stock at about $2 cheaper than where it's trading right now. And like I said, everything does look pretty bullish, so that's a pretty good opportunity. A little bit more than a 1% return over the week. Understand this purple line here is your earnings. So earnings come out on 1 February, which is prior to this 2 February expiration, which is 14 days from now. That was the 1 week out options. And then you can even look a little bit further if you do want to own Meta. You actually get really good returns right now. About $20 on a single contract if you're looking to sell some options at $385. If you own 100 shares, that's a pretty good return. That's about $2,000 over about a month and a half time period. Again, the capital required for that is pretty big. These shares are $384 right now, so you would have to actually own those shares if you wanted to sell some options. But pretty good opportunity here on Meta if you're looking to get into the stock, or if you already own the stock, you can sell these options and potentially collect that money over the next month and a half or so. Let me know down in the comment section if you like this format of video. I've been trying to play around with the idea of separating my technical analysis content from news content. So let me know if you like it or if I should change it in any way. Let me know that as well. Otherwise, like and subscribe if you got any value out of this video. Make sure you hit the bell so you don't miss out on any future episodes. Of course, none of this is financial advice. This is all for entertainment purposes. Good luck in your trading and have a great day.